Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf.
Well, welcome to another thrilling episode of the Renegade and the Rambler show, only on the Renegade Ramblers Radio Network. I know it's a little long for a name, but hey, we're rookies here. It's what we do, and we kind of gotten used to saying the name. And well, anyway, and we're joined tonight. Suzanne's listening in, and we got Jeff Johnson on the line as the co-host tonight. How are you doing this week, Jeff?
I'm doing pretty well. Unfortunately, just going to give a little quick programming note for tomorrow. I will not be on tomorrow morning, not because I'm going away anywhere, but since it's a holiday, my schedule goes to 9 to 5, so I will not be available for my show in the morning. So I will be back again next Monday at, I don't know, let's call it 9 a.m. Eastern.
All right. And like always, I'm here every Sunday night.
Well, anyway. I'm here tonight, but I will not be available. Unfortunately, work is making that impossible.
Yes. And since we don't have those kind donors paying us $100,000 plus a year to sit here and do this, oh well, they'll have to work around our schedule.
But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a show tomorrow morning. And I think you can go into that with Suzanne.
Yes, that's right. I will still be here tomorrow. We're going to go an hour later. And, Jeff, I will be missing you, but Daniel will be producing the show. Daniel, I want to thank you right now for doing that. I know you have the day off. So we will be going at 11 rather than 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. And just a quick preview, I will be addressing that debacle that happened at the University of Utah Hospital. It is a Wasatch-related incident, so that's in my backyard, and I'm going to be picking it apart. A lot of the discussions are talking about Fourth Amendment issues, which, as we know here with our enlightened viewership, the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply. What I will look at is the Utah Constitution and Utah's code when it comes to if this issue of implied consent and would it be applicable to the issue of the individual that the blood was going to be drawn in this case. So we're going to talk about that. I have a girlfriend of mine who is a registered nurse, and she will be coming in and giving her opinion as well. So you have the opinion, the point of view from a former criminal defense attorney as well as a currently practicing nurse.
Should be quite a show.
I'm looking forward to it. I was fit to be tied, quite honestly, when I first saw this. What people really don't realize is this happened in July, and now it's just coming to light. They sat on this for a month, and had Alex Webble, the victim, the nurse in this incident, not come forward and shown these videos, I don't think that Mayor Jackie Biskupski, Chief Mike Brown, or Attorney General of the city of Salt Lake, Sam Gill, would have done a gosh darn thing. And there were a ton of witnesses, and this had been unaddressed until she went public with it.
Well, of course, don't make a PR incident if you don't have to, you know.
Well, I tell you what, our mayor here, she is all LGBTQ LMNOP, and I tell you what, if this was a nurse that resembled one of the folks that we have in the Nordstrom makeup department in City Creek, whose gender will never be known for sure, she would have been on this like white on rice.
Oh, yes.
And you have another guest coming on later tomorrow. Or is this the second segment?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is also I have a friend, Ryan Walters. He's a writer for the Abbeville Institute and some other organizations. And he just wrote an article about the preservation of Confederate monuments in the state of Mississippi. And he had some interesting points of view that I wanted to address. And he also pointed out an incident, I believe it was I have it listed in Alabama or somewhere else, a hospital CEO was arrested for also a similar circumstance. So he's going to we're going to have a nice segue getting into him, and then I have some thoughts to share again about this cultural Marxism that we're going through right now and how absolutely wussified we have gotten, where we have people that need to seek counseling and run to campus security because of banana peels in trees or Confederate flags or Donald Trump written in chalk that they see on campuses. We have just entered into a parallel universe, I think.
A parallel universe. Those used to be so good on those Sci-Fi Channel.
Right, and this is just a whole world of stupid right now. So I'm going to be talking about that. I also had an interesting conversation with one of the people that is going to be working on this set. I can't get into too many details, but as many people know, my home is going to be used in a television production. So I am now having access to and communications with people that aren't very like-minded, and I'm hoping to use this experience to maybe be an ambassador of goodwill and let them know that those of us that really do adhere to these 18th century ideas as 21st century thinkers, we're not haters, we're not racists, we're not bigots. We want liberty for everybody, and that's what I'm trying to teach them. So I'm going to share a little bit of a conversation I had last week.
Sounds interesting.
Well, sounds very interesting.
Well,
now,
I'll
Suzanne,
let you guys give your show. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold a second. Hold on. I know, Daniel, this won't interest you any, but I'm going to play about a minute of a song. I'm going to play about a minute of a song because, Suzanne, you and I know this group very well, and you'll recognize the song right away. The reason I'm playing a little bit of that thing is because Walter Becker, the co-founder of Steely Dan, passed away today at 67. So I had to play a minute of this song, and I picked FM on purpose because we're doing radio. So I don't know about you, Suzanne, but this was pretty instrumental music when I was a young lad growing up in my teenage years, and they don't really do this anymore.
All right, I heard it all. Quite honestly,
yeah.
I was never a fan of Steely Dan.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
Walter Becker will be missed. I really enjoyed Steely Dan, Deacon Blues, all the other songs that made them a great band, and I'll miss them. It seems like,
yes,
Suzanne, we're getting older, and all of the guys we listen to now are starting to pass away. It's really getting hard to find people that are alive from our youth that played music.
Keith Richards will outlive us all, and our kids.
Yeah, well, you know, when you pickle yourself, I guess it's possible to outlive us all. So,
well, I will be listening. I'll let you
thank
guys
you for
get to your
joining
show.
us.
I'll be listening from the background. We're making dinner out here and packing up the house. I'll talk to you, but I'm listening. I'm standing by.
All right.
Have a great show.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day tomorrow.
Now that we can return this off of the 1950s rock station and into actual political discussions.
Try like the 1970s and 80s.
I figured it was
That
70s or 80s,
actually.
but I had to be a smart butt and say 50s.
I know. That was definitely when I was in high school. So anyway, I had to do a little something to memorialize him. Anyway, we can get off of that. Now that Suzanne's off, because I don't want her to use all of her material on our show today, but I had already planned on talking about this incident with this nurse. if you're ready to get into that, Daniel, or did you
go
want
ahead.
to talk about something else first?
Nope, you can go ahead and go into it.
All right. So anyway, as Suzanne was talking about earlier this week, I noticed an article, a post about some video from a nurse in Utah who was arrested for refusing to draw blood from an unconscious patient that was involved in a motor vehicle accident. At first, I thought, I didn't know what to think of it. I had conflicting views, being from law enforcement and being a recovering paramedic. I had two different opposing views coming at it. But as I looked into it more, it became more and more apparent that she was in the right on this. A nurse says she was assaulted and illegally arrested by a Salt Lake City police detective for following hospital policy that does not allow blood draws from unconscious patients. And she is correct. Most hospitals, most paramedics would be arrested if they did procedures on a patient. The only difference between her and a paramedic is there is some implied consent with a paramedic. If I find someone unconscious, there's implied consent that they want me to do something for her. With her, there's not that implied consent.
But see, isn't there also clauses in many of the state laws that say that would be considered assault and battery if you tried to do that?
Right.
Just putting the whole accident thing to the side, that you can't just go pulling blood from people without court orders and stuff like that.
Okay. Again, here's where there's some ambiguity in this. Now, as a paramedic, if I came across a motor vehicle accident, the guy's unconscious, I'm going to start an IV because I'm going to get IV access to give him fluids because there may be internal injuries and he may be bleeding. So we have to keep the blood pressure up at a survivable level. At the same time, I'm going to draw bloods, not for a BAC, but so that they can get a type and cross match. So if they have to go to surgery, they know what blood type the person is so they can give them blood. To make sure there's no physical problems, say the person was in an accident because they're diabetic and their blood sugar's 20 and they're unconscious because their blood sugar is so low that they're now unconscious. So I'm doing it for medical reasons, not for legal reasons.
Right. I don't think any of our listeners would even realize it's not that they would realize there's a difference. They know there's a difference there. There's a difference between a doctor trying to save your life and a police detective just looking to throw blame on somebody.
Right. So there's a little bit of difference in that. Now, as a nurse, this guy's unconscious. Say she's an ER nurse. She may very well draw blood. Again, like I said, because they're going to make sure they have the right blood type if this person goes to surgery. There's a multitude of reasons why they're going to draw the blood legally from an unconscious person because of implied consent. Where it becomes sticky is this implied consent as related to criminal charges. You and I both know here in Pennsylvania, there is implied consent that if an officer pulls you over and thinks you're drunk, they can compel you to go to some place and have blood drawn. And there's implied consent. Now, we can argue whether that's legal under our constitution, state constitution, which honestly I don't believe it is, but
it's not,
because we're not free people. We are slaves to the state. They own us. They own our bodies. They can make the rules and have a complied consent. If you object to that, they'll make it impossible for you to drive. They'll take your driver's license away. You're going to be found guilty of DUI, and they'll ruin you financially. So much for freedom. In this case here, this detective shows up because this person was involved in a motor vehicle accident. And as I dug deeper, I found out that this motor vehicle accident was indeed caused by the police department. They were in a high-speed chase with another vehicle, unrelated to this driver that's unconscious and in a Salt Lake hospital in serious condition.
So then why would
They
the
were in a
police
high-speed
department...
chase. The guy hit this trucker head on and badly injured him, but they're there looking for a blood draw on the trucker that was hit by the car that the police were chasing in a high-speed chase. Had they not been in the high-speed chase, this guy may not hit him. He wouldn't even be in the hospital. Yet, they're trying to ball blood on him to place some sort of blame on the truck driver.
Oh,
which
yes. And
I'm still at a loss for.
Trust me, they have so many means of placing the blame on the trucker who did absolutely nothing wrong that we know of in this story that is ridiculous. If they find out that the driver drew a line on the wrong side of his logbook, well, he's got to be at fault, because if he was following hours of service, he would not be there. So it's obviously his fault. It has nothing to do with the police were in a high-speed chase and caused the car to go across the median or anything like that. We got to blame the trucker for everything because, Lord knows, we don't get enough tax money out of them, so we got to get, I guess, jail time out of them. Yeah. It is so bad, Jeff, that if I'm 15 minutes over on my logbook and a drunk driver rear ends the truck and dies, I go to jail for manslaughter charges. Because, quote, if I had followed the hours of service, I wouldn't be there for him to hit. Well, that's how ridiculous these laws have gotten.
Well, I can't remember if I posted something. Matter of fact, I'm sure I did. I posted something on Facebook, one of my posts, stating that the problem today is that we have massive volumes of criminal law. Instead of dealing with murder, robbery, like sexual assault, anything like that, just the major crimes, the things that society can't deal with allowing to happen. If we just did that, we'd all be a lot freer because, yes, would there be drunk drivers? Yes. But at the time that they commit the crime, then you deal with them. But we don't do that today. We aren't free. All these massive volumes of laws, we are all already criminals. Every one of us have broken a law. It's impossible to live life and not have broken a law. And you don't even know you broke a law. It's impossible to know.
Oh, but ignorance is no excuse, is what I always hear.
Because they've already made us, we are not free. We're not citizens. We are slaves. And all these laws do, just give them another way to maintain control over us. They control our lives. We are not free to live our lives as free men, not infringing on other people's rights and other people not infringing on our rights.
Well, no, because if we actually admit that our rights come from God, not from the government, then the power of the government shrinks, and thereby, people might actually not pay their taxes.
Yeah. Well, again, that's that discussion we have numerous times over the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights. And matter of fact, I think in the last show I got into that subject as well. So anyway, back to this. Footage from the University Hospital and officer body cameras show Detective Jeff Payne and nurse Alex Woobles in a standoff over whether the policeman should be allowed to get blood samples from a patient who had been injured in a July 26th collision in northern Utah that left another driver dead. So obviously the driver that was in the chase that hit him died. It was that big a crash. Woobles says blood cannot be taken from an unconscious patient unless the patient is, 1, under arrest, unless there's a warrant, number 2, or the patient consents. Patient's unconscious, unable to consent. So number 3 is gone. And so the detective acknowledges in the footage that none of those requirements is in place, but he insists that he has the authority to obtain the blood, obtain the draw, according to the footage. So the guy's not under arrest. The guy's not conscious. And this detective didn't call for a warrant. So he has no authority other than his ability with a gun to manhandle a woman, to arrest her, to try to compel her, or he can threaten her, which he did. At one point, Payne threatens to take Woobles to jail if she doesn't get the sample and accuses her of interfering with a criminal case. What criminal case, I ask? This man is not under arrest. He's not a suspect in any crime. He is the victim of another person running from police. So what crime is he accused of?
Oh, he was accused of being a truck driver. He was in the wrong spot at the wrong time in an unpreventable situation from his perspective. And obviously we must blame the trucker because, daggone it, he makes so much money and we got to get us some. Yeah. Honestly, what I think they're doing, what they were trying to do, and I honestly hope that the DA looks into this and actually charges this detective with unlawful arrest and everything, is they knew they screwed up. They caused the death of a suspect while they were trying to chase him down, which is, as far as I know, in most precincts, you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to fall back and, get the chopper and stuff going. But they went ahead and pursued him, caused him to wreck, and they were trying to cover their backside because the trucker would have been within legal rights to sue the state, the county, and whoever was doing this chase because they caused the accident in the first place. The truckers, I don't know what the status of the trucker is. I don't know if he actually survived or not. He might have died while in the hospital. But the problem is when you have a police department that's going to run roughshod and do whatever they want and ignore even their own policies. If we even put the Constitution to the side, he wasn't even following his own department's policies. Does he have any real authority? Is he any better than a mobster?
Well, that's my whole point with our legal system today, is that whether it comes to situations like this where you have interaction with the police because of our massive volumes of criminal law, unnecessary criminal law, like I said, that none of us know, and I guarantee you every one of us have broken some criminal law somewhere or sometime, and we don't even know that we've committed a crime and that we are, in fact, criminals. We just haven't been arrested yet. We're criminals that haven't been arrested.
We still have laws. There's still laws in the book here in Pennsylvania that say you have to tie your horse up to a post when you go get your hair cut or when you leave the horse. Does anybody in Pennsylvania ride a horse other than the Amish? But the law's still on the books. I don't know.
Probably a few, but there's not very many.
There's a law in Carlisle that says you cannot spit on the street. It's a $10 fine. I believe it's a $10 fine. Everybody does it. It's not enforced. It should be stricken from the books. But that would be the legislature or the boroughs or whatever actually doing what they're supposed to do. It's just easy. We just pile law on top of law on top of law. There's regulations just on building. We'll stick with trucking. There are so many regulations in trucking, we don't even know which agency we need to talk to before we get in the truck. Is it DOT? Is it OSHA? Is it DEP? Is it EPA? I can go on here. It gets downright ridiculous. We need to eliminate the stupid stuff, which most of these laws are. They're nothing more than power grabs that they don't do anything. And get back to actually legislating the few things that affect other people. Whether I wear my seatbelt in my truck while I'm driving doesn't affect anybody but me. It doesn't affect anybody but me. It doesn't affect the car that rear ends me. It doesn't affect the car I hit. It only affects me. And I should have the freedom of choice on whether or not I'm going to wear the silly thing.
Yeah. So anyway, Warbles consults several hospital officials and repeats the policy. So she went to her superiors, her supervisors. They conferred, and they support her position that they can't draw the blood. Payne tells her she's under arrest, grabs her, pulls her arms behind her back, and handcuffs her. The footage shows the detective dragging her out of the hospital and putting her inside the patrol car as she screams, "Help, help, somebody help me, stop, stop, I did nothing wrong." A University of Utah police officer and other officers who provide security for the hospital witnessed the arrest and did not intervene. So you have other officers that just stand there and watch this all transpire and do nothing to intervene to back up this nurse who is in the right. As he stands in the hospital parking lot after the arrest, Payne says to another officer that he wonders how this event will affect an off-duty job transporting patients for an ambulance company. Evidently, he must work for an ambulance company off duty. "I'll bring them all the transients and take good patients elsewhere." So now he's a bully. Now he's going to try to hurt the hospital financially because he is in the wrong. He's a bully. He needs to lose his job. He broke the policy. He broke the law.
It's beyond he needs to lose his job. This is wrongful arrest. If I did this to you, I go to jail for kidnapping. He needs to go to jail. I am tired of bully cops. You want to be a bully, go with the rest of the bullies. Go down to the local precinct and you can sit there in a jail cell. You don't have the right to violate law, to violate department policy just because you have a freaking little piece of metal over your heart.
Yeah.
They're the ones that ruin the perception of police. That guy is what makes everybody think the police are going to always go out and try to distort them. And while we disagree with speed traps and all that, most cops are just out trying to do their job. But this guy is clearly, above and beyond where he's supposed to be. And the fact that it took till now, when this incident happened in July, it took till now for the mayor and the chief of police to actually act and for the DA to actually start an investigation should tell you all you need to know about where the people of Salt Lake need to start changing their administrations. You start with the mayor.
Oh, they're not going to.
You get rid of all of them. Well, no, they won't because
it's another city. They'll vote Democrat. These are all run by Democrats, and they're all run like little socialist enclaves, and that's exactly what they are, socialist enclaves.
No, it's so just like the Houston deal. The governor of the state saying evacuate, and the mayor goes, no, you all stay put. Why hasn't the mayor been brought up on charges for 39 dead people?
Because in reality, he may have saved a lot more lives by doing that, because all those coastal people were all trying to flee the coast, and the roads were already packed. You get millions of people hitting those roads. No one's getting out. They're all stuck in cars. And you saw the pictures of the highways underwater.
I know. It was no better. So, it was a lose-lose situation. I'm not arguing that.
It's a lose-lose situation for this guy. The fact of the matter is, it was a bad situation that no one could really foresee it getting as bad as it did. They were predicting bad, but it definitely was far worse than anyone ever would have thought it could ever be, because it was a 1,000-year storm. You don't see these storms.
It was double what they were predicting, but still, Houston floods on 2 inches of water. Not to get off subject, but it floods on 2 inches of water. They were predicting 24.
So anyway, evidently she has a lawyer now. Her name's Kara Porter. She's an attorney. She's representing her. And I'm going to go to that paragraph because it's actually right on point. Porter, however, said implied consent has not been a law in Utah since 2007. So Utah doesn't even have implied consent. Some lieutenant was telling, I didn't read the paragraph. I'm jumping down through this because I want to get through this article as quickly as possible. Some lieutenant, Lieutenant James Tracy, the watch commander for on duty that night, told this guy that arrested her, Payne, that she was interfering with the police and that he should arrest her. And he got on the phone and tried to explain to her there's implied consent. And she said, no, there's not. You have to have a warrant to do it. And again, it's a phone call. That's all it was needed. All that guy had to do is call the judge that's on duty that night, because there's going to be a judge that's on duty for these police officers to call, And all you have to do is say, listen, there was a fatal accident. We're trying to get a blood draw on this guy, and he's not under arrest. We're doing this to try to protect him from the accusation that he was somehow. This is what he's claiming. This police detective. He's claiming he was doing this to protect the truck driver, so he wouldn't be blamed for the accident. With the accusation that he was under the influence of alcohol. That's his claim. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
I know what I understand that claim, but I highly doubt that was his true reason. Because I've seen too many DOT cops to know most of them are looking for fines, or most of them are looking to pin stuff on drivers.
And I understand.
That's me as a driver. I'm not law enforcement. I deal with them every day in trucking. So we purposely, if you see a driver driving around a scale house, it's not because he wants to. It's probably because he doesn't want to interact with the wonderful people of the DOT. Because they can be just so lovely at times.
Yeah. So her lawyer says that it's not even a law, has not been a law in Utah since 2007. That's 10 years ago. It's been 10 years since they've had that. So I'm thinking that these officers, this lieutenant included, had to have known there is no implied consent in Utah. This her lawyer Porter says, and the U.S. Supreme Court, which doesn't apply. I realize that. But we'll let her go with her little story. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 2016 that the Constitution permits warrantless breath tests in drunk driving arrests, but not warrantless blood tests. There's a really important sentence. There's an important couple words in that sentence. They permit warrantless breath tests in drunk driving arrests. This guy, admittedly, by this police detective, was not under arrest. So even if it was a breath test, he's not under arrest. Not charged of any crime, not under arrest for any crime, but he's telling him that he can get a warrantless blood test, telling this nurse and this watch commander, this lieutenant's telling this nurse that they don't need a warrant. And as I started to say earlier, it's a simple phone call. I do know that for a fact because when I worked closely with some police officers in a local town on their night shift. All they had to do was pick up a phone, and they could get a hold of a judge if they needed a warrant.
Oh yeah, there's always a judge on duty. Oh, even during a holiday.
There's no reason. Yeah, there's no reason. If indeed, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe it, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If indeed his reasoning is to protect this truck driver, all he needed to do at that point is like, okay, he has time. This BAC is not going to change that much in 15 minutes. It'd take him 15 minutes to get a warrant.
Well, here's the other thing. If he's not drunk, okay, if they do the BAC and it comes back that he's not drunk, it's the same as if they don't do the test at all. He's supposed to be presumed innocent. He's supposed to be presumed that he was doing everything legal. So why does the officer so intent on getting the blood test? I still say the officer, I can't talk for his motives, but my gut tells me he didn't care a lick about the driver. He was trying to push the blame from the police department onto the driver and say, well, the truck driver was drunk or the truck driver was out of his hours of service regulations or something. I don't know. He didn't have his brake calibers properly adjusted, and therefore it's all his fault. That's what I can almost guarantee you that's what he was trying to do.
Well, I'm not disputing that. That's why I said I was just, for the sake of this show, because I don't know his motive, I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt if indeed that's all this was. And again, I don't believe it, but it's a simple phone call. All you do is call. He'd get the warrant. Blood be drawn, and the guy's off the hook. Everyone's off the hook. She's off the hook. The detective's off the hook. The driver's off the hook. Everyone's happy.
Well, and okay, so he's unconscious.
But he was going to assert his authority. He was going to brutalize this lady, arrest her, put her in cuffs, drag her to a car because she was not going to question his authority.
No, yeah, and it just got completely out of hand. But anyway, we've rolled through our first break. So I say we take one here, and then we, I don't know, switch subjects to, I don't know, maybe the PA tax issues that seem to be ongoing here. So this is the Renegade and Rambler show only on the Renegade Rambler Radio Network. We'll be right back after this.
Well, I'm going down to the river. I've got a cane pole in my hand.
What you doing, Gray?
Reading history, Pinky.
Oh, I love doing that, but I always forget to buff the chrome.
That would be waxing the car, Pinky. That's different.
Oh.
Reading history doesn't make things shiny. It edifies you and prepares you to confront the possibilities of destiny.
Did you know that every time your mouth moves, strange sounds come out?
I'll explain this so that even you can understand.
Here at Renegade Ramblers Radio, we like to explain things so even the ruling elite can understand it. 18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
This is the Renegade Ramblers Radio Network, featuring the Renegade and Rambler Show on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, The Glorious Cause on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Barrett Briefing on podcast.
18th century ideas for 21st century thinkers.
Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
There are many sanctions we could take. Financial institutions, for one. Believe it or not, the Russians have a very weak economy. We could do a lot more damage there. Individuals could be sanctioned. Organizations could be sanctioned. There's a wide range of options that we still have to respond to a Russian attack. When you attack a country, it's an act of war. That would have to constitute an attack on the United States of America.
Let me ask you this question. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
Well, let me describe the situation in Aleppo, and perhaps that will help you reach that conclusion.
It's much harder to come back. I'm waiting in line. Nobody gets too much love anymore. It's as high as a mountain and harder to climb.
Well, welcome back to the Renegade and the Rambler show, only on the Renegade Rambler Radio Network. All right, Jeff, just to switch up a little bit because my blood's still boiling over the earlier story. So let's see if we can set it to nuclear proportions here. Did you happen to see this story on the local news about Pennsylvania doesn't tax and spend enough?
No, thankfully I didn't.
Okay, well, I guess it's me because I happen to live 11 miles from the state capital here. But anyway, this was coming out of the local ABC affiliate. It starts off, I hope people that are listening hear me loud and clear. Republican gubernatorial candidate and state Senator Scott Wagner said, and then he recited a mantra that numerous conservatives at the Capitol have adopted. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Well, we both agree it's not a revenue problem. It's a spending problem here on Renegade Ramblers Radio. So let's see what the rest of them say here. State Senator John DeSanto, which also happens to be one of my state senators, stuck to the script during last week's This Week in Pennsylvania, which you can find on the abc27.com website if you go look for it. It says, or he said, it's a spending problem. It's not a revenue problem. This year's $32 billion budget overwhelmingly passed in the legislature, which it shouldn't have, by the way. Is $32 billion too much? Yes. Do we spend too much? Yes. We absolutely have a spending problem, said Nate Benefield of the Conservative Commonwealth Foundation. Okay, so now we got the right side. Just hold on, people. We'll get the left side here in a second. We are not undertaxing our citizens. We are spending more than we should be, he said. But are we? So here you go. Now ABC is going to go out there and they're going to compile the Pennsylvania neighbors. Okay, so it says ABC compiled the state budgets of Pennsylvania's neighbors for comparison. Okay, so there's a verse in the Bible that says about comparing yourself among yourselves and with yourselves and how stupid that idea is. Yeah, so just keep that in mind as I continue here. In terms of land mass, Pennsylvania is bigger than every border state except New York. Okay. In terms of population, Pennsylvania is bigger than every border state except New York. Again, not getting the point here. But in terms of its state budget, Pennsylvania's $32 billion is lower than every border state except West Virginia and Delaware. Ohio and Maryland spend more. Tiny New Jersey spends more. New York spends a lot more. Now, New York was almost 3 times what Pennsylvania spends. I'm pretty sure with New York, we can just throw that out the window there. They're kind of an anomaly on the East Coast anyway. So they say it's an eureka moment for many liberals because, of course, that means we got to tax you more. We don't have a spending problem, said Mark Steer of the left-leaning Budget and Policy Center. Okay, time out. If ABC 27, which is kind of left-leaning to begin with, is calling you left-leaning, I think we know what the problem is. But anyway, we have a problem of taxing too little and from the wrong people. Steer's conclusion, Pennsylvania spends too little on schools, social programs, and the environment because it taxes its highest earners too little. Okay, first of all, state constitution does not allow for the state to spend money on schools or social programs. I've read the document. It doesn't have it in there, people. If you want to put it in there, there is a process to amend the document. The problem is the rich don't pay enough in taxes. The rate on the top 1% in New York and New Jersey is 6.6%, the effective rate. Ours is 3%, which is why they're moving from New Jersey and New York to Pennsylvania. Steer thinks those making more than $500,000 should be taxed at a higher rate than Pennsylvania's flat 3.07%. So we already see that this Steer guy has a problem with people actually succeeding in life, if you want to call earning more money succeeding, because I guess he's got, I don't know, what would you call it, Jeff? Wage envy?
I suppose it'd be wage envy. I don't know.
It's just, this is getting out of hand. I fully disagree with that, said Benefield, who rejects the entire premise of comparing Pennsylvania's spend number to neighboring states. He says it is not an apples-to-apples comparison. We've been calling it the shadow budget, Benefield explained. We talk about the $32 billion general fund, not the $80 billion total operating budget. Okay, the general fund and the operating budget shouldn't be separate to begin with. It should be one, and the people vote on one budget. Most of the extra money Benefield's referring to is federal dollars, which there shouldn't be federal dollars here. This whole article is going crazy, but there shouldn't be federal dollars flowing from the federal government to the state But there also shouldn't be me paying a ton of money to the federal government either, because the Fed shouldn't be doing half the stuff it's doing already. But there are funds like the Motor License Fund. Okay, so now we're going to raid DOT. Oh, you know, all that fuel tax money? Hey, guess what? We're going to raid that here, Jeff. With just under $3 billion in state dollars, and the Pennsylvania Lottery Fund with just under $2 billion. Why does the Lottery Fund get money from the state? I understand the state taking money from the lottery, but why is the state funding the lottery? There are also several other funds with billions of dollars collected and spent, but not counted in that official $32 billion spend number. So why are we not counting all the money, Jeff?
I have no idea. I do know, because as they raise taxes, people go and find other ways to get around it. The most obvious example is me living on the New York border. I go to New York and buy gas. I won't give them an extra 50 cents a gallon tax money every time I go to the fuel get fuel. No, I won't do it. That's my little act of secession. I'm not going to pay them.
You better be careful saying that.
Do the same thing. I don't care. I'm doing nothing illegal. I'm going where the gas is cheaper, 50 cents a gallon cheaper.
They're going to try and get you for fuel tax evasion. I joke about that, but I could actually see them setting up state troopers going, "Did you buy your gas in Pennsylvania today?" It's just okay. I'm done with that. You got anything else you want to talk about in the last 10 minutes here before I lose my mind?
Well, I can. Since you played our wonderful, wonderful friend John McCain, we got some war news here. And I guess let's just set the stage a little bit. Evidently, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, within the last few days, not exactly sure when, because I just found it out and I just started finding some articles on different things. Evidently, they tested a thermonuclear device, which in the past they've. What's that?
I said nifty.
Yeah. I guess the difference is what they've done in the past have been small nuclear devices.
Yeah, probably like the A-bomb.
Probably in the order of what we dropped on Japan. So something that was relatively small. I mean, obviously, small is relative when you're talking about atomic weapons, because the people that die from the bomb, they don't care if it's small or big. I mean, they're still dead.
I was going to say, does it matter if you take a needle to the back of the head or if you take a nuclear bomb to the back of the head?
Really
you still die.
It doesn't matter. Right. That's why I'm saying it's all relative at this point. But in relative terms, what they've tested in the past have been relatively small devices. I didn't look it up. I didn't have time. But evidently, I'm guessing that when these bombs go off and they're tested underground, it has the effect of being like an earthquake. So they can measure how much the ground is disturbed by these bombs. And in the past, I think they were relatively small. I never even heard them talk about the size of the blast in relation to the scale of earthquakes. Well, this one evidently was big enough that it made a difference, because South Korea was reporting that it caused a 5.7 on the Richter scale earthquake, which is a rather large earthquake. And the U.S. Geological Service said it was like a 6.2 or something like that. So it was a rather large device at this point. So they've actually perfected what they're doing, and they have a rather large device now today. So that brings us to where I was going with this. North Korea's latest test, more diplomacy will only make matters worse, says, here it comes, Ambassador Bolton. So diplomacy is only going to make it worse. Bolton is neocon supreme. Let's just go to war with somebody. Let's just blow somebody up. regime change is the only way we can fix the world. That's who we're talking about. And former Ambassador Bolton, John Bolton. Following North Korea's announcement that it successfully tested a thermonuclear device on Sunday, so it was recently, maybe it was last Sunday, I don't know. Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, said more diplomacy will only make matters worse regarding the Hermit Kingdom's nuclear threat to surrounding countries in America. I think the only diplomatic options left is to end the regime in North Korea by effectively having South Korea take it over.
Oh, so John Bolton's for war. Wow, where have I heard John Bolton be for war? Oh, that's right. The only country he doesn't want to bomb is, well, I think he doesn't want to bomb the U.S., but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I don't think he's advocated bombing Canada yet. So I guess Canada's safe right now, too.
I'm sure it's on his to-do list, though. I'm pretty sure. We are talking John Bolton. He will find an excuse to bomb Canada and Israel and, well, every other godforsaken place of the planet. After all, those penguins in Antarctica are going to come get us.
Yes, I know. That's true. Anybody who thinks more diplomacy with North Korea or sanctions, whether against North Korea or an effort to apply sanctions against China, why in God's green earth would we do sanctions against China, is just giving North Korea more time to increase its nuclear arsenal, increase its ballistic missile capability, increase the accuracy of its guidance systems, and put us, South Korea and Japan, in more jeopardy. The artificial, okay, I think this is where it is here. Yep. Okay, the artificial earthquake caused by the test was 5 to 6 times stronger than tremors created by previous tests. South Korean official put the magnitude at 5.7, and U.S. Geological Service put it at 6.3. I was off by 0.1.
I just have one question, Jeff. Where in the world is he testing all these huge nuclear devices on that little tiny peninsula of his? You don't even have the whole peninsula.
I know. It's underground. He has mountains. I'm sure they put him underground. It's just like we were testing him underground back in the 40s and 50s and 60s until they put it into testing.
Didn't we determine that was a very horrible idea?
Yeah, we did. Groundwater or something. Doesn't affect him any. He doesn't care. I mean, heck, it's people starving to death. They don't care. So,
do you want to starve to death over the course of
war with them?
Do you want to starve to death over the course of about 3 to 6 weeks, or do you rather go out in about a 30-second blast?
Okay. All right.
It's a horrible situation.
I'm not going to have time to go into this article. This is from the Ron Paul Institute. It's by James George Jatris. So if you want to read the article, go to the Ron Paul Institute. The article is called 3 Dangerous Delusions About Korea. I'm going to give you the 3 delusions. We are down to about 3.5 minutes, so I'm just going to hit it real quick. All options, including military force, are on the table. Everyone knows there is no military option the U.S. could use against North Korea that don't result in disaster. It'd be last time there was thousands and thousands of Americans killed last time we had a war there. It'd be far bigger or greater than that this time. The weapon systems, everything are a lot worse today. North Korea, a second delusion, North Korea must be denuclearized. Whether anyone likes it or not, North Korea is a nuclear weapon state outside the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and will remain so. Kim Jong-un learned the lessons of Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. Because Kim has weapons of mass destruction, especially nukes, he gets to stay alive and in power.
Which is also why Iran is looking at getting nukes too.
If we stop meddling in everyone's affairs, well, these people wouldn't care. Delusion 3, if the U.S. presses China hard enough, Beijing will solve the problem for us. There is no combination of U.S. sanctions, threats, or pressures that will make Beijing take steps that are fundamentally contrary to China's vital national security interests. Here, the vital national security of China means just that, not the way U.S. policymakers routinely abuse the term to mean anything they don't like. Well, so it's a great article. I don't have time to go into the article. It is, again, at the Ron Paul Institute. It's called the Ron Paul Institute, The 3 dangerous delusions about Korea.
Make sure you print that off, and we'll definitely go over that next week.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, we don't need another war. We're escalating the one back in Afghanistan again. We're sending more troops there.
I thought Trump was supposed to I thought Obama was supposed to get us out of there. And then I thought Trump was supposed to get us out. Are we actually ever going to get
the
out of there?
non-interventionist president?
Or are we just going to be like Russia and finally admit that this is a never-ending war? And we'll be like Russia. We'll be like the USSR. By the time we realize that we're stuck in a quagmire, we'll have bankrupted the country. We're probably already bankrupt, but we will realize that we're bankrupt, and there'll be no turning back. The states will also cede, and that'll be the end of us.
Hey, Daniel, I think you better play the music because we probably are down into seconds left on the clock before we're
a minute 05, actually.
So, okay.
But anyway.
Well, then you might as well start the music, and because it's long enough, it'll play while we're talking. And I appreciate having the ability to be on the show tonight. I'm sorry I'll miss everyone tomorrow. You have a good time producing Suzanne tomorrow, and I hope that she has a good time with her guests. And
I will.
I look forward to hearing on the replay.
All right. Well, this has been another wonderful, exciting episode of the Renegade Rambler show. Actually, it's the Renegade and the Rambler show. You can find us on Facebook at the Renegade Rambler Radio Network, and you can find us here on YouTube on our channel that you're probably watching and hopefully are. Anyway, until next week, we wish you well and hope you'll join us. Remember, Suzanne is on at 11 Eastern tomorrow morning. I'll be right here producing. Hope to see you then. Until we meet again, good night.